Today we are making ginger bulla, so make sure you have a tall glass of juice ready for this one. Bulla cake is a spicy snack that's probably best described as a cross between a cake and a cookie. These used to be a very inexpensive way to stop a gap, but getting a nice bulla nowadays is tricky, and the price has not gone down with the quality. I lost track of all the subbies that has been requesting this one, but here you go, squad. Now let's get into it. To make bulla I need 2 bowls. I'm going to handle wet and dry ingredients separately. This is just to get even dispersal of the ingredients and so that some of the ingredients dissolve properly before we finally combine everything. Let's start with the wet bowl. I'm adding about 2/3 cup water. This really calls for only half cup, but I like to have a toops extra for insurance. I want a tablespoon of vanilla, a splash of lime juice, about 2 teaspoons, brown sugar. This is a cup and a half or about 250 grams. This needs to dissolve properly in the liquid. I don't want granules ending up in the dough when I get to that. Let's talk about the ginger. Here I have some liquid ginger extract and I also have fresh ginger. Ginger powder is what's typically used in combination with the fresh ginger, but I had a lot of trouble finding any. Using ginger in different forms layers the ginger flavor and makes it more complex. This is a 1/3 cup of the extract because this isn't very concentrated. If I had ginger powder, it would be a couple tablespoons. Next, I want a tablespoon of molasses. If I use granulated sugar, I would probably add another tablespoon and a half. This can be quite hard to get out of the spoon. Next, I'm going to whisk this until the sugar dissolves completely. That's done for now. Let's grab the dry ingredients bowl. To that, I'm going to add 3 cups or 500 grams of all-purpose flour. Sifting isn't necessary. Half stick solid but not hard unsalted butter. This is about 56 grams. You could use melted butter. Most recipes I've seen call for that, but adding solid butter means I don't have to get a pot or extra utensil dirty. This is quicker and easier. I'm simply dicing and adding this to the flour. Melting butter means it will be distributed quickly, but by the time the dough is done, all the butter will be combined evenly anyways. Next, a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. Emphasis on the freshly grated. A teaspoon of freshly ground allspice. I use a mortar and pestle for this and run it through a strainer. A tablespoon of cinnamon. Freshly processed spices have superior flavor and makes a crazy difference in taste. Half a teaspoon salt. I want a teaspoon and a half baking powder, so I'm going to add 3/2 teaspoons. Same thing. And also baking soda. Only half a teaspoon. Next up is fresh ginger. I already peeled these. This is about 3 inches of ginger and I'm going to grate this. This is the 3rd time I've made bulla, and what I realize is that it's really hard to overdo the ginger, so I can be very generous. Go ahead and add that to the dry ingredients. Next, I'm going to work in the butter. Just break them down into smaller bits. I'm also working in all the other ingredients as well, so everything is distributed evenly. Grab the wet ingredients and I'm going to add a generous splash. I want this a bit too wet and sticky, so that's why I have a bit extra liquid. It comes in handy if the dough is too dry. At this point, this should be really sticky, but that's what you want. Just continue to work the dough. You want the dough to be smooth, and kneading for a long time will get you there. But what I like to do is get all the ingredients mixed in properly and let it rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. Resting relaxes the dough and makes it much smoother. A rough dough will give you a rough bulla. Wrap that up so it doesn't dry out. This is going to take a generous amount of flour. Usually you roll this out and use a cookie cutter or some container to cut out individual bulla, but that leaves trimmings. I hate handling trimmings, especially when I don't have to. How I like to handle this is ball up the dough and weigh it on my kitchen scale. That's 1020 grams. 1020 grams means I can get 10 Bulla cakes weighing about 102 grams each. So I'm going to weigh out smaller dough balls of 102 grams. This is still very sticky, so I need flour. You don't have to get it to 102 grams exactly, you could even eyeball it, but this way I get even portions without trimmings. The thing about trimmings is that they produce a lower quality product. Quite a bit of extra flour would be worked into the trimmings, especially if it's rolled out a few times. I find this way to be more efficient and I like consistent quality. Now that I have my 10 evenly sized pieces of dough, I'm going to shape them. This is just so when I get to rolling them, I get most irregular circles. These smell really delicious. The scent of the ginger is kinda comforting. I like the smell of the spices. Making bulla in and of itself is a satisfying experience. Next, I'm going to grab my rolling pin and roll out each ball. About half of an inch is good. Less or more is fine too if you want thickers or slimmers. These should still be sticky, so flour is your best friend at this point still. After each roll, just rotate the dough to get it even. Go ahead and roll out all the rest of the dough balls. Alright, that's done. I like to grease my baking trays. This is just a pizza pan. And then line with grease paper. And after that, grease the grease paper. This should hold 6 bulla comfortably. Set that aside. I'll just put the other 4 on this tray after I grease and line it. It's not really necessary, but resting the dough at this point gives great texture to the Bulla cake, so I'm going to rest this for maybe 10 minutes. While that's resting, I'm going to set the oven to preheat to 350 degrees. The Bulla takes between 20 and 25 minutes to bake completely. I need melted butter to brush the Bulla when they are done, so I'm going to place a bit on top of the oven. When the oven reaches the temperature, just place the Bulla in. Yeah, the butter is melted as well. I want to brush these while they are still hot. Without butter, these have a crispy or crunchy skin when they cool completely. The final 4 are also hot and ready, so I'm going to brush them as well. These have a pretty good shelf life, and Bulla actually tastes best a few days after you make them, especially when you use a ton of ginger. Quick snack. These are the test batch for this video. I added extra molasses, but they are still really good. You can really play around and fine tune this to your taste. Jamaicans enjoy bulla with a few things. Avocado is the number one thing, but it's not the season right now, so it's very hard to get. It's my favorite. Jamaican processed cheese is number 2 for me. Never tried it with ripe banana. And I don't really like bulla and butter like that. That texture is great. You smell the spices as soon as you break it. That's a nice crumb. Delicious. I'm going to try the one with the ripe banana. Shout out to Shaggy. I didn't know this was a thing. That's alright, it's good, but it's a bit too sweet for me. I prefer a slice of pear over everything. This was great, squad. Check the links in the description to support the channel. Drop a like, share and subscribe, and check out another delicious recipe before you go. Catch you in the next one.